Congresswoman, great to see you. Your reaction to these sanctions on Rosneft and Lukoil. Listening to the president just a short while ago, he simply said you have conversations with Putin that then don't go anywhere. And it just sounds like the president and all the people in his administration are just tired of just the talk and the no walk in terms of ending this war.
Well, I'd like to be the first to say that President Trump, as you know, is very fair. And part of the reason why he's been so effective at these other negotiations, you know, the 8 other previously that resulted in peace deals, is ultimately because of the fact that, A, he's very firm, very respected, but also, 2, he knows how to cut a deal. And I think that, you know, the president's same sentence also said that he was not going to be giving any of the Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine because he didn't want to escalate the war. And so he's being very firm in his position. What I will say is that the president is actively engaged in talks and has always had a good relationship, a respectful relationship with the president of Russia. In the same sense, Kirill Dmitriev, who's Russia's special envoy to the United States in regards to some of these peace talks, has also extended, you know, open communication and has maintained a very good relationship with Steve Wynkoff. So there's a lot that happens behind closed doors. You know, generals will always talk to generals that the American people might not see. But what I will say is that I have faith that the president will indeed secure a peace deal. And I think that this is all part of that. Remember, President Trump has also vocally said that if Russia does agree to a peace deal, that he would consider trade. I think trade could be a great option for Russia and an incentive for them to end the war in Ukraine.
You know, Congresswoman, what about these sanctions specifically, though? Are they enough to get Putin to the negotiating table in a meaningful way?
Look, I'm not President Putin, but I think anytime sanctions are levied, I think that it definitely does send a message. And I think that ultimately it does also to have great negative impacts as well. And so I think that the president knows what he's doing. But again, the fact that the president is not going to send missiles is actually a good thing because we don't want to escalate the war. And so I think that anytime there's a negotiation, you always have to give someone an off-ramp. And the president's very firm. He wants to see the fighting stop. He wants to save lives. And I think that he's going to be very successful. In fact, I'm so positive of it that I've also joined, Hillary Clinton in saying that he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize in addition to all the other peace deals he's been able to negotiate. So I'm very faithful that he'll be able to secure this one.
Congresswoman, the European Union countries just approved the 19th package of sanctions against Russia for its war against Ukraine. And with these latest sanctions just on the 2 largest oil companies, it's slow going in terms of financial impact. Do you think the president and the administration would be willing, if Putin doesn't step up and actually do something and come to the table in a more meaningful way, something more significant like secondary sanctions? Larry Kudlow has talked about where you just completely cut off the ability for other nations or businesses to transact business. You cut them off from the SWIFT messaging system. You cut them off from the FedWire. You essentially cannot do business with Russian entities. Does it require that?
I don't think that it's going to get to that point. And the reason I say that is because what you're seeing with the 2 administrations, both the Biden and the Trump administration, under Biden, I don't think that these talks were even taking place. With Trump, they are. And you do see a certain level of respect and rapport that's actually de-escalating the situation. So I don't want to speak on behalf of the White House and the administration, but I do think that they are very serious about this. Now, on the flip side, I'd also like to point out, though, that it does seem that the people of Russia and that the president of Russia do indeed want to maintain relations with the United States. And they also would like to see maybe potentially access to our markets in regards to trade. So in the event that there is a peace deal, which I think there will be, and remember, President Trump is not likely going to be doing another meeting until he can get that as a secured win. And you heard him in that statement that you played earlier that he said, you know, we're not quite where we're at yet. But ultimately, I do think that this is on the horizons. And so I'm going to continue to support the president in this. And I'd also like to say that, you know, President Putin himself said that if President Trump was in in office, this would not happen. The European Union, I've actually spent significant time talking to some of the members of the EU, and there are some that are war hawks, but there's also some that don't share the interventionist perspective and actually want to maintain peace and get back to, a normal way of living instead of funding these foreign wars. And so there's a split there, but ultimately President Trump is leading not just this nation, but the world in regard to how he's going to respond to this. And so I'm very happy that we have him in office because he's definitely peace first and foremost.
And we'll definitely keep an eye on it. Congresswoman, thanks so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
They're also building the Obama Presidential Library. I'm wondering if you've seen.
He needs help.
Have you seen pictures of the architecture? And
Yeah,
what do you think
I did. It's not too pretty. No, but it's closed. It's stopped. They ran out of money. I mean, he's building a library / museum. You call it some museum, and usually they call it library and museum. That's the official name. And they're stuck. And he wanted only women and DEI to build it. Well, that's what they got. I built a great building in Chicago, as you know, a big, beautiful building, one of the tallest buildings in the country. And we got it built very quickly, very well. And we used the construction workers of Chicago. They're great workers. They're great construction people. And I suggest that he get them involved. But they're hundreds of millions of dollars over budget. And I think it stopped. I'm reading these terrible stories. But that's the way our country was run under President Obama, too. Nobody knew it.
That was President Trump joining in on the growing consensus in Chicago that President Obama's new center there is a major problem and an eyesore. Costs have more than doubled to $830 million from $330 million. The president is saying that's the way our country was run under President Obama. Look who's here. Let's welcome back to the show Chicago resident, Chicago Red member P. Ray Easley. P. Ray, we're excited to talk to you again. What do you make of this? Because costs for Obama's center to taxpayers like you in Chicago and Illinois are now soaring to $224 million for upgrades around Obama's center. How do you guys feel about all this?
Once again, we're talking about something that isn't fair in the city of Chicago. The Obama Foundation was supposed to create an endowment that was supposed to be funded with $430 million in order to make sure that the taxpayers were not given a bill. Well, friends, the Obama organization has only put $1 million in that endowment, which means that they're $429 million short. And this is how things go in Chicago. You plan things, you tell people how it's going to go, but then you never fulfill what you're supposed to do, and the taxpayers are once again left with the bill. We didn't ask for this at all. Once again, Melody Hobson and her husband, George Lucas, wanted to build a museum on our lakefront. They were not allowed to do that because you're not supposed to use public land. They changed the rules for the Obama Foundation, sold them the land for $10, and now we're being stuck with the bill, and we still haven't seen any proof of public good. So we'll see how it goes. Wow. For $10. They got all of that land.
Senator Ted Cruz says it looks like Star Wars Death Star. Let's take a listen to what your fellow Chicagoans had to say about Obama's costly center. Watch.
What do you think it looks like?
Like a jail, kind of.
Like a jail.
Yeah.
It looks like it was a great president, and it's basically ruined all the traffic down this way for 2 years.
What would you call that architecture?
Garbage can, maybe, just a little.
It's just a giant great TARDIS, that's all.
It looks like an ATC tower.
ATC tower.
That's like a big mausoleum.
A big mausoleum.
Yeah.
What do you think? Isn't this supposed to be for Chicago residents? But, people there are saying it's an eyesore. It looks like a giant mausoleum.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't match our Chicago architecture, which we are world renowned for. I think that the former president wanted to create something that was going to be very unique on the South Side that illustrated his presidency. And now we have in America a big rock that contributes nothing to anybody but himself and his ego. That's what we're dealing with here. And I wish that the city of Chicago would have fought back a little harder to put this entity somewhere else where it wouldn't mess up the traffic nor take any of the parkland. Everybody deserved better out of this situation, but once again, the Obamas won.
I mean, Chicago's got a deficit, and now you've got things like the Chicago socialist mayor wants to tax social media platforms. Final word.
Yes. 50 cents a person. That's what they want to charge people here in the city of Chicago. But they voted for, again, Barack Obama to build this center, and now we get another tax bill on top of the tax bill for the illegals, on top of the tax bill for the pensions, on top of the tax bill for everything else.
Got it.
Welcome to Chicago.
Thank you so much. We'll have you back on. It's good to see you.